Now, let's move on and talk about some other issues. Have you ever been called by someone asking you to resend some money you have received, or someone who offers you to take you through a number of steps to correct a supposedly wrong transaction on your mobile money account? It is very possible then that you have been approached by mobile money fraudsters. At the current rate of growth of the mobile money market compared with the mobile money penetration levels in Ghana, it is not surprising that it has become an avenue for crime to ferment. But how do we stop it from growing? This morning on News Desk, we have been joined by the man whose job it is to make sure you are not duped, or if you are, the culprits are caught. Head of Cyber Unit as the Police Criminal Investigations Department, Dr. Gustav Yankson. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
We are grateful for your presence this morning.
You're always welcome.
So, almost every day we hear reports like this. I can even tell you personal stories of being approached by people who I suspect to be mobile money fraudsters. But according to your records, how widespread is the current situation?
Well, I cannot give statistics for the whole Ghana Police Service because we've not done any of such. But I can give you statistics as it pertains at the CID headquarters.
Okay.
And, you know, ideally, CID headquarters, we are supposed to receive cases when maybe a case is not being investigated well, or some few walk-ins, we accept them. So when we have a lot of walk-ins, then it means the case is getting out of hand. Exactly. But let me say that currently, last year, we received about, mobile money ranked about a third on the number of cases that we received for the whole year. We saw some kind of a reduction this year, up to about the first half of this year. And then the third quarter, between July and September, we are seeing another increase. So what I would say is that the cases are increasing, and if it is increasing at the headquarters, then it means possibly it's on the increase at
the various branches as well.
The various police stations. And generally, we are losing last year, as per the cases reported to us, we are losing about 100,000 Ghana cedis to the criminals as at last year. And then up to September this year, we are still hovering somewhere around 150,000 Ghana cedis, meaning that...
Is that according to your records at the CID headquarters?
Yes, at the CID headquarters. At the CID headquarters, cybercrime unit. That is not even at the whole CID headquarters, but at the cybercrime unit, which is quite worrying. And that is why we are doing a lot of awareness creation just to let them know the kind of modus operandi that these criminals are employing, so that they can take precautions to protect themselves.
Since you're talking about education, let's do that quickly. So a lot of people would say, I just received a phone call from these people. They know my name. In some cases, they know the amount that they just deposited as the mobile money vendor. How is this possible?
Well, from the investigations we've done so far, I cannot tell how, but then it is obvious. If I know your number now, I can just, and you are registered with mobile money, all I can do is just to start a transaction. And then when your name pops up, then I cancel it. So it is easy for somebody to know. And then I believe that some of the agents, the mobile money agents, they are using these umbrellas, tabletops. So security of the kind of information that they collate is also not in the best of shapes. So I believe that that is how come they are able to get some of these pieces of information.
Yeah, I remember last week speaking to a security consultant who was telling us that the way the banking sector is regulated, and it's so stringent, if those sorts of reforms were made in the mobile money sector, it would help, because mobile money is basically banking but in another form. So why don't we see that kind of regulation, those kinds of stringent measures in the mobile money space?
Well, I think this question will best be answered by the Bank of Ghana, because I have raised such questions. And the question is, the banks, they have this policy of knowing your customer. And the question I ask, KYC, exactly. And the question I ask myself every day is, do these telcos know their customers? Because if you know your customer, then names like Kofi 123 wouldn't pop up. You understand?
We have names like that in the system.
Of course. I mean, it's obvious. I've said it. I don't have the statistics, but I believe that about 50% of that data for SIM registration is false or fake. I strongly believe that. I don't have the statistics anyway, but I mean, looking at the cases that we try to investigate and the kind of names that we tend to see, I mean, it's obvious from the name that this one, I mean, it's not correct. If you can see Kojo, Ajwa, you know, just doesn't make sense. So,
but these people are supposed to register with valid ID cards.
Well, so that is where, as a nation, we need to look at it again. Unfortunately, the truth is that you can do some checks for yourself. Go to Circle today and try to register. They would register you without any card. Or if you send any card there, they will not be able to validate it. So if you can't validate it, then where are the checks? How do you know your customer? Obviously, you don't know your customer. And if you don't know your customer, at the end of the day, should anything go wrong, then the police, we have the responsibility to investigate. And then it makes my work difficult, because then I have to use some kind of unconventional, unorthodox methods to investigate. And then that makes it very, very expensive, because if you are using other means to investigate, it's no surprising that we are not able to make some kind of inroads with our investigations.
Which is what I wanted to ask, that realistically speaking, are you able to investigate effectively? Because you are looking for a needle in a haystack, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is the truth. You have hit the nail right on the head. And if currently we are able to investigate just about and prosecute, arrest and prosecute just about 10% of our cases, that isn't too good. And that is why we need to...
At your office, the cybercrime unit?
Yes. I mean, we are, let me say, we are the consultants within the police service when it comes to cybercrime. So if we are investigating, we are not able to investigate, arrest the perpetrators, and we are only able to investigate 10% of our cases, or let me say, to prosecute 10% of our cases. Then you can just imagine the rest of the police stations, and I can't give that statistics now, but at my unit, we are only able to investigate 10% of prosecute them.
This is serious for me, because, you know, we've been having a campaign on defilement, and the numbers we have from Ghana Living Standard Survey 6, that 93% of these cases are not even reported in the first place. So you can imagine, if something as serious as defilement has a 93%, or should I say a 7% reporting rate, something like mobile money fraud possibly would have an even smaller one. And out of the ones that we are reporting, even a smaller number is being prosecuted. But what are some of the efforts that you have made in face of this challenge? Because it's your job basically to make sure that you navigate the space well.
Let me start with, I think it's, let's put it in context. You see, what accounts for these increases in the number of cases that I've just done a little study, and then I just want to. You see, one thing I have realized is that users are not very conversant with some of the functionalities of these mobile services, mobile money services. So in view of that, it makes it the criminals are able to take advantage of the fact that they lack knowledge on the kind of functionalities, and they are able to lure them to just give their pins and stuff like that. And then we've also realized that users are so gullible. I mean, talking about the fact that they tend to believe anything that they are told. So some little social engineering tricks are put out there, and then they fall prey to it. And then sometimes, from all the cases we've seen, that poor phone security is another. Okay. Yeah, they don't keep, they don't practice very good.
But how do you keep your phone secure?
Oh, well, for example, if you don't have any passwords on it, and then maybe you give your pins out, naturally your friends could just steal, because we've had cases where friends have stolen from their phones. They had access to it, and then they had. So poor phone security is one of them. And then, just like I said, I believe that the telcos, because they are not able to validate the kind of cards that are presented to them, they also do not help us, and they are part of the problem, because the criminals get to know that if I can register with any name, then at least if we try to trace who is the perpetrator, at least we are going to face some challenges. It's not going to be a straightforward type of investigations. So they've seen that.
Now, quickly on that point, we know that there's going to be a re-registration of SIM cards. It's been announced by the Ministry of Communications. That is at the back of this digital addressing system that has been rolled out. Do you think that this could provide some solutions to this issue?
Sure, it would. At least I believe that it will help us, and then it will provide some form. Of course, then if this one is out, then the next thing is the low level of awareness that we should let the people know, look, these are the kind of modus operandi that they are trying to employ. So just know how to protect yourself. So if we are able to roll out this issue of not being able to validate cards, then at least that would reduce the number of, at least it will enhance the kind of successes that we'll be able to chop.
But how must they go about it if we don't want to have a repeat of the last, challenges we've had with the registration of SIM cards?
Well, the solution is that if we are able to tell that you are Daniel, then that should be enough. So if we have the data on you, like a national ID, we have the data on you. So should something go wrong, we go back to find who is the user of this card. So next, the only thing is that our IDs, we should have a database sitting somewhere, and then real time, not even, I wouldn't, real-time validation. We check real-time. So immediately you come with a card saying that you want to register for mobile money, we check real-time before or even check real-time before your SIM is activated, so that we are sure that, because if we do it post registration, then the chances are that we are likely going to miss some of them. So we do them real-time. So the person is sitting there with a device, he's able to check, he sees your face, you are there, he sees your card, it bears your name, everything is correct. So you bring a card, he's able to check it, the serial number, the name, your sex, whatever, your age, everything is there, he's seen it live. Then at least he's sure that it's you. Then you can go with it.
So what about in terms of the agents? And MTN has, for instance, they've had reason to fire 3,000 of their agents nationwide. You've been talking about KYC in the customer perspective, but with the agent, what must they do?
Well, I believe that they claim they've been doing, the telcos themselves, they have been doing a lot of training for their agents. They should continue to do it. They should, for instance...
Do you have reason to doubt these claims?
No, I don't have any reason to doubt it. But then I believe that if the guy is sitting under an umbrella with a book there, then surely the security of that customer information it's not too good. So that is why I'm saying they should continue doing it. I don't have any reason to doubt it, actually. They should continue doing it, letting them, they should know that the kind of information you pick is a sensitive information, and you should not leave it out there. When a book should get full, where do they put it? Maybe you can ask them. Where are they putting those books? Are they giving it to the groundnut sellers so that it will go out there? And that is where data protection should even come in. How are they protecting the data that they are collating from, or they are taking from the general public? Because these are people that they are registered under MTN, but then MTN should, or let me not use MTN, the telcos.
Okay.
But then they should ensure that the right thing is done, because that data is in the open and anybody can pick it up.
And use it and manipulate. Okay, so let's come down to your office and the efforts your office is making, because you are also key stakeholders in this.
I agree. Well, we have a challenge, but the best way out for now is to bring them on board, like the telcos, and we are constantly engaging with them, trying to some form of collaboration so that we can nib these incidents in the bud. But one of the things that we also want to do is just to create a lot of awareness. It is important that we create a lot of awareness, trying to let the general public know the kind of models that these criminals are employing, and then sending out signals to the criminals themselves. That, look, it is an offense to defraud someone using the mobile money medium. The fact that you are able to hide behind the same number doesn't mean that we always arrest them. They would be caught. So these are some of the pieces, and telling them the kind of sentences that they are likely going to face when the case is in court.
But you have a case of 90% of cases that have come to your office specifically,
yes,
been unresolved.
Yes,
if I can say that.
Sure.
Is it a matter of lack of technology to?
No, you see, it is not about technology. The data on some of these crimes sits with the private sector, to be specific, with the telcos. I would say about 90% of our success, 90% of our success depends on the telcos. Why? It starts with SIM registration. If the SIM registration is false, how am I going to see that it's you, Daniel, using 02111111? How will I know? So if the telcos are not able to give me a good data, I can't investigate. Then it means I have to use other means. And that makes
those other means should serve you to an end. I mean, it can't be just a total dependence on the data from the telcos.
Yes, that would help me to some extent. But the other means, I cannot put it out there in public, because that is my strategy that I use.
That's fine. What I'm saying is that for those means that you employ, we should be seeing a better success rate.
Yes,
10%.
but it borders more on intelligence, and intelligence is expensive. Do you get my point? I mean, we need resources to use the other means, and the resources, just like we are also dependent on government. So naturally,
to release funds.
Yes, I can't say we are we can take care of everything that we need. But so obviously we have some challenges with resources, and I feel that we shouldn't even go to that extent of spending so much to just investigate one case. If everything is in order, then we should be able to investigate with no stress. We should know that it's you, Daniel, and then that's it. The only thing we need to know is where exactly, where to find you, and then that makes it easier. Finish.
Right, Dr. Yagston, let's take your final thoughts on the matter before we move on.
Well, to conclude, we have the police. We have a role to play. We need to do more training on our investigators. This is some form of an emerging crime, in quote. It's not emerging anyway, but then some form of emerging for some of our investigators. They need to understand how the telcos operate, and so we are trying to train them, constantly train them, so that they will be able to investigate some of these cases. What I would also want to the general public to know is that maybe the next time what we have to go through is to go through some of the modus operandi that is being employed by some of these criminals, so that at least to create, they will be able to know, and they will be vigilant enough, and then be able to tell when there are signs like that coming up. And then the next thing is the telcos. They also have a role to play. They have a role to play. They should make sure they train their agents. They should make sure that if there's some form of due process that has to be followed within their organization, they should ensure that it is done, so that some form of these pieces of information wouldn't get out there, and then we think that it could be the agents or their systems or whatever. At least everybody should do its part. The government as a whole, or as a people, we should also ensure, just like the government has assured us that the national ID is on its way coming, I believe that it's in the right direction. So we should ensure that we roll it out as soon as possible. And then I think together we'll all be able to fight the crime.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Gustav Yankson, for making it. He's the head of the cyber unit at the Criminal Investigations Department of the Ghana Police.